A lot of people think that if they're named as an executor in the will, they can immediately start handling the estate. But in reality, that person often has no authority at all until the probate court issues a specific document. So today, we're going to explain what these probate letters are, why banks require them, and how families actually get them.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Broll, probate attorney and founder of GPLG. We're a law firm that focuses exclusively on helping families after a loved one has passed away. So we handle a lot of probate cases and a lot of estate and trust litigation.
I'm Jenny Dinker, and I'm the client onboarding with GPLG. Welcome to Probate Matters. Before we get started, I think it's important to let you guys know that Eric is an attorney, but any information here is not legal advice. It's for general information only. For advice on your specific situation, please reach out to our office directly. We'd love to be able to assist you. Eric, this is something we hear a lot from clients. They'll say the bank told them that they need letters from the probate court before they can do anything with the estate. So what exactly are they talking about?
Yeah, what they're referring to is either letters of administration or letters testamentary. And so these are official documents. They're actually court orders. They just have a funny name, but they are actually court orders that are issued by the probate court and that give that individual legal authority to represent the estate and handle the deceased person's assets.
So essentially, the court is confirming that this person now has authority to act on behalf of the estate.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. So let's start with the basics first. So at the most basic level, what are probate letters and why are they so important?
All right. So as I said, they're official documents issued by the probate court to appoint someone to represent the estate. So they're a court order. Without these documents, the person who might be trying to manage the estate generally doesn't have any legal authority at all. So they can't deal with banks, they can't deal with creditors, and they can't transfer property. These letters come from the probate court and they confirm who is in charge of the estate. So they also allow that representative to communicate with financial institutions, to get information, and to access accounts. And then lastly, they can authorize property transfers or sales, but they don't always authorize it. Sometimes there can be more steps involved in a property sale.
That makes sense. So if someone walks into a bank with the will and the death certificate, the bank still won't release any information to them?
Normally, no. Because the bank often wants to know that the person who's there has the legal authority to act. And without a court order, you don't.
So depending on the situation, there are actually two different types of these probate letters. Let's start with the situation where someone has a will. What are letters of testamentary?
Great. So letters testamentary are a document issued by the probate court that appoints an executor and confirms their authority to carry out the instructions of the will and the instructions under state law. The will must be filed with the probate court. You also have to file a petition, and you ask the court to accept the will and to appoint you, the nominated executor, as the official executor over the estate. And so the court will usually send out notices to other interested parties like heirs to see if anyone has an objection. If there are no objections, then the court will typically approve that. The executor will then take an oath. The court will appoint them, and the court will issue this order called letters testamentary.
So even if the will clearly says that someone is the executor, the court still has to approve that first.
Yeah, exactly. The will nominates an executor, but it's not until they are confirmed and appointed by the probate court that they actually have legal authority to represent the estate. This is an area of common confusion where someone may find their name in a will and believe they have the authority to act and do things right now, but they don't actually have any authority at all.
So what happens if there isn't a will? If someone passes away without a will, how does that process work?
Okay, it's a similar process. The court is going to appoint an administrator instead of an executor, and the document that grants the administrator authority is called letters of administration. So the estate is going to go through what's called intestate administration, but from a structural standpoint, it's similar because you'll petition the court, you'll ask the court to appoint you, the court will send notice to interested parties like heirs, see if there's any objections, and then proceed forward. The main difference is there's no will. So because there's no will, anyone who's interested can petition the court to have themselves appointed, and the way that assets are distributed is under state law, not under the terms of the will. Those are the largest two differences. There are some more differences, but those are your big two. And then that administrator, once appointed, receives their legal authority through the letters of administration that's issued by the court.
Got it. So this may be a surviving spouse or another family member that's asking the court to appoint them, right?
Yeah, that's typically how it works. It'll be someone who already has an interest in the estate.
Okay. So if someone needs to apply for these letters, what kind of documents are usually required?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're going to have a petition that you complete. You're going to have a death certificate. You'll have to identify all of the heirs, their names, address, age, and whatnot. If the heirs, any of them are willing to consent, then you'll file those consents with the court as well, which can make it go quite a bit faster. You'll have to identify for the court that and make an affirmative statement that the folks identified are the only heirs. There are no other heirs, and explain to the court the legal basis upon which you've come to the conclusion that there are no possible additional heirs. And then you'll often provide the court with some basic asset information. It's usually at this stage just estimates because, again, no one has the authority to go talk to the bank and get actual information. So we provide a best guess or a reasonable estimate, and that'll, in most cases or in many cases, that has to be supplemented later by inventories and whatnot.
So to be clear, there's quite a bit of information that has to be gathered before filing.
Yeah.
Okay. So once someone receives these letters, what authority do they actually have?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the letters give the executor or the administrator the legal authority to manage the estate and handle many of the financial affairs of the person who passed away. So that typically includes the power to collect assets, the power to preserve assets, the power to work with creditors and settle creditor claims, negotiate creditor claims. You have the power to pay debts, and you have the power to disperse assets. You also have the power to open an estate account, which you'll use to collect assets. Now, beyond that, whether there's any additional powers or not depends upon what the order says and whether there's been a grant of expanded powers or whether we're operating on the default limited powers. So if there is, for example, no additional expanded powers, then the executor or administrator would not be able to sell the house, for example, until after they petition the court again, ask the court for permission, and then get that permission. So the powers that an executor or administrator has without getting expanded powers are actually somewhat limited.
So how does someone actually obtain letters of testamentary or letters of administration?
Okay, so it starts with filing a petition with the probate court to be appointed as executor or administrator. You have to provide the documents and information to the court that it requires, such as who the heirs are, making sure that there are no additional potential heirs. All of the interested parties have to be notified. And then once that's done, if there are no objections, then the court will usually proceed forward, issue the order, the administrator or executor takes an oath, and then they receive the letters, testamentary or letters of administration from the court. Now, if there is an objection, then we're on a totally different path, and that's going to take a lot longer to work out. We're probably going to wind up in litigation. But from a basic standpoint, that's how you get letters.
How long does it usually take to get these letters from the probate court?
It depends on the estate, the circumstances, and quite honestly, which probate court we're in and what their workload is. It can also depend upon the number of heirs sometimes, because the more heirs there are, typically the more work is involved on everybody's part. And then whether there's any family disputes. So if there is a dispute, if there is an objection, it's going to take substantially longer. But generally speaking, I would say absent any disputes and in a kind of normal or average estate, it would be 3 to 6 months to receive your letters. Mostly on the 3 side, unless you're in a couple of specific counties that we know are just behind, and then it could be on the 6-month side.
Got it. And what about cost? What should someone expect?
Yeah, costs vary a lot, and it depends on the county, the estate, and whether legal assistance is involved. And so the costs include probate court filing, attorney's fees, and then any kind of additional administrative expenses.
So the big takeaway here is that even if you're named as an executor in the will, you can't really do anything until the probate court issues these letters.
Yeah, that's correct. And some common mistakes we see when someone's attempting to get letters is, the thinking that the will alone gives them authority, not actually going through the court process, and they get themselves in trouble. And then assuming that letters aren't necessary, that they can just go talk to financial institutions, and not taking the time to gather the information and documents before filing, because if the petition that you file isn't correct or doesn't include everything, then the clerk is going to kick it back and you're going to have to go through it all over again, which, again, that causes delays. So we recommend that someone speaks with an attorney if there's any kind of disputes, if there's any kind of questions or missing documents, the estate is a little bit more complicated, or if they just want to avoid delays and make sure it's done right the first time.
That completely makes sense. Really good information for anyone starting the probate process. Guys, remember to like and subscribe and comment on the video, and Eric may answer a question in a future video. If you have a situation you'd like to discuss with us, reach out to our office directly. Eric, thanks again for a great show.
Thank you.